Let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the SRBMPR framework. Now, right off the bat, I want to make one thing absolutely crystal clear. What we're looking at here is a research audit trail. It's a behavior extraction study focused entirely on BTC/USDT. We're looking at a methodology and results archive that records exactly what was tested and exactly what was found. So, to be clear, this is not a validated trading system, and it is definitely not a specification for live automated execution. What we're really doing is unpacking the deep, mechanical methodology behind how this system attempts to objectively read market structure.
Here's our roadmap. We'll start with the SRBMPR research framework. Look at the data sets and test environment, define core market structure, examine cycle formation, break down the entry and exit logic, and finally, discuss the real value of auditable research.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the SRBMPR research framework.
You know, what's really fascinating about this approach is its core philosophy. It's all about extracting actual market behavior using purely mechanical rules. Think about it. Most retail systems out there rely super heavily on lagging indicators. Things like moving averages or oscillators, which are really just smoothed out transformations of past price action. But SRBMPR, it rejects that entire concept. Instead, it works directly from confirmed price pivots and how they sequence together. The whole goal is to describe what price structure actually did rather than what some derived indicator implies it might have done.
And that brings us to a really fundamental concept, the context preservation principle. The idea here is that a behavioral sequence literally cannot be evaluated independently from its structural origin. Simply put, the left side behavior, the stuff that's already happened, contains the exact information needed for future movement. Every single market movement has a memory, right? And this framework is specifically designed to capture and preserve that memory mathematically.
Moving right along to Section 2, Datasets and Test Environment. Because to test this objectively, we need an incredibly precise testing environment.
We're talking about massive, high-frequency datasets for BTC/USDT across 1-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute, and 15-minute intervals. We are looking at roughly 100,000 candles per dataset, spanning multiple years from 2024 to 2026. But here's the truly wild part. This data is completely raw. It's entirely user-provided open, high, low, closed data, with absolutely zero filtering. No gap filling, no outlier removal, nothing. In the world of quantitative finance, that is practically unheard of. The system is being tested against raw reality, warts and all.
All right, Section 3, Defining Core Market Structure. So how does this system actually read all this raw, messy data?
Well, it all starts with the pivot. But in this framework, a pivot isn't based on subjective chart reading. You know, it's not someone sitting there squinting at a screen and drawing arbitrary trend lines. Instead, it relies on a rigid, percentage-based mathematical threshold. Specifically, it uses a 0.1% minimum reversal threshold. And because it's entirely percentage-based, it's completely scale invariant, meaning it works exactly the same way whether you're looking at a 1-minute chart or a 15-minute chart.
Now here is the absolutely crucial point. This completely removes look-ahead bias. The algorithm tracks the price moving in one direction, but it literally doesn't know a peak is a peak until the price is already reversed by that minimum 0.1% away from it. Only then, after the fact, does it retrospectively confirm that extreme point as the pivot. It can't see the future, so it doesn't even try to guess.
This rule strictly separates the data into two very distinct zones. The left side is your confirmed market memory, the price history that is already fully formed at the exact moment a pivot is evaluated. The right side? That's the totally unknown future. A pivot only gets to join that confirmed left side record after that 0.1% reversal actually fires. This guarantees the system operates strictly within the harsh constraints of real-world timing. There's absolutely no cheating allowed.
Which leads us to Section 4, Cycle Formation and Grouping. Once we have these individual pivots mechanically identified, how do we group them?
Look, a single swing, high or low, is just a data point, right? To make it meaningful, the methodology groups them into cycles. For an upcycle, for example, the behavior originates at a confirmed low, and it just keeps continuing as long as opposite structure hasn't formed. Pullbacks are totally fine, permitted as long as they remain higher lows. But the cycle ends the absolute split second a lower low forms, immediately breaking that structure.
What's really vital to grasp here is that old structural layers don't just disappear, they stack on top of each other.
It forms a layered behavioral sequence where past data accumulates. It creates this comprehensive historical market memory without ever deleting past data. This continuous, unbroken context is what dictates exactly how the system interprets the current state of the market.
Okay, let's get into Section 5, Entry and Exit Logic. How exactly does this machine translate cycle logic into simulated trade mechanics? 0.1%. Remember how we just talked about a pivot only being confirmed after a 0.1% reversal? Well, this methodology strictly penalizes its own entry price to account for that exact delay. The realistic entry price is mathematically forced to be exactly 0.1% worse than the origin extreme. This completely neutralizes any hindsight advantage. Simply put, if you couldn't identify the pivot in real time, the system won't let you enter there.
And to filter out the noise, this system does not treat every single swing point as a trade opportunity, not even close. Simulated entries are triggered exclusively when prior structure officially breaks to form a brand new behavioral origin. Every single other intermediate continuation pivot inside an ongoing cycle, it's just ignored as noise.
1%. When it comes to risk, the parameters are uncompromisingly rigid. A mechanical stop loss is placed exactly 1% away from the cycle's origin price. It doesn't trail, it doesn't adjust, and it is entirely independent of whatever crazy price action happens next on the right side of the chart.
Finally, we arrive at Section 6, the value of auditable research. Why is having an unfiltered, mathematically exact audit trail the ultimate test of this entire methodology?
A true quantitative validation requires absolute, complete transparency. So the audit trail differentiates between two distinct reports. Report A maps the natural structural boundary, basically capturing the full cycle extreme just to see how far the move naturally went. But Report B tests fixed target execution chronologically, asking the real question: did we hit a fixed arm multiple target, like 1-to-1 or 1-to-2, before that strict stop loss was triggered?
And a genuine audit demands exact numerical matches down to the absolute decimal. We can't just round up to make the system look better. We can't silently filter out invalid trades either. If that 0.1% entry lag pushes the realistic entry past the target, it has to be documented as an invalid setup. Any tiny discrepancy must be rigorously investigated.
Literally nothing gets swept under the rug here. By logging behavior and cycle IDs, maximum adverse and favorable excursions, and precise invalidation states, the system provides a complete unfiltered population dataset. It ensures the model actually behaves exactly as hypothesized over hundreds of thousands of candles across years of entirely raw, unclean data.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound question to wrap up this explainer. In a financial landscape that is just entirely dominated by black box algorithms and lagging indicators, if structural market memory can truly be mechanically extracted and verified with absolute zero-look-ahead bias transparency, how does this redefine the future of quantitative analysis? Whether this methodology ever becomes a live trading system or not, the sheer rigor we've just unpacked absolutely pushes the boundaries of how we understand market behavior.